Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Stopke. I am an integrative and functional registered dietitian nutritionist, and welcome to Mental Wellness for Women Professionals with Dr. Wendy. So Wendy is a doctor of behavioral health, and she's also a licensed professional clinical counselor, and she helps women really just create the life that they want. So she has over 10 years of experience in coaching, speaking, and most importantly, real life in the trenches counseling experience. And her view is radically different. And so Wendy really focuses also on helping women professionals and executives, at least in one part of her practice. And she also writes for Psychology Today. So I'm super excited to have her because a lot of the clients that I support are women professionals and executives that typically, put a lot of pressure on themselves. So mental health is such an important piece of just considering their overall health. So Wendy, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be able to be here and talk to everybody about the importance of mental wellness, especially our women professionals. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone tuning in right now, would love for you to like, comment, share if you're on with us. And then if you have any questions, you can always just pop them in the chat and we'll get to you as soon as we can. So Wendy, kind of just tell us a little bit about your practice. I know you're in San Clemente right now, right?
Yes, I'm actually in Laguna Niguel, and then my practice is in Mission Viejo. And okay. It's a great place to be. The weather's been nice. I think yesterday was the coldest it's been, but it's been great. And I love meeting with women. I love the practice that I've established. I think there's a great need for it, especially with professional women, although I see women from all walks of life, not just professional women.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you do virtual mostly right now, right? Or do you also have an in-person?
I do have an office. My office is in Mission Viejo, and right now everything seems to be going online, of course, with the pandemic, and it's better to be safe and make sure that, our patients are safe as well as ourselves. So for right now, everything's Zoom. I know we're all Zoom fatigued, and that's something that we can talk to at some point as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's tough because it's like, it is convenient, but at the same time, the face-to-face interaction, like in person, is so valuable. And, you do miss some stuff from Zoom. So that's good that you have that easy access for your patients. So I'm curious, I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but for our watchers here, our viewers, what's kind of the difference between a doctor of behavioral health and a psychologist?
A doctor of behavioral health, we focus a lot more on the whole person wellness, the integrated care aspect. So we don't separate mental health from physical health. We look at the whole person, the combined. So we believe that your physical ailments could be resulting from mental ailments. So stress that you may have had in childhood or growing up, or stress that you're currently under, maybe let's say at your workplace. So that could create stomach ailments, that could create the headaches, that could create a lot of physical ailments that you have, where many times psychologists, they may focus on that. Your health psychologist will probably focus on that a little bit more. But several will focus a lot on assessments and a lot more looking at mental conditions rather than combining the two. So Dr. Behavioral Health is kind of the best of both worlds, I would say. It's a great marriage.
Yeah, no, I love that. I had no idea that was really the definition. I mean, looking at someone from really more of a holistic perspective and seeing, how their mental health may manifest in their physical health or, physical illness or disease. So, and I see that so commonly with my patients because they more so focus on gut health. Oftentimes, I mean, it's very rare to find someone that has, perfect mental health or, no history of trauma or anything like that, and then have gut issues. So yeah, huge connection there. So just tell us kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say
No, I love what you just said about that, about trying to find somebody with perfect mental health, because there probably is no one that I know of that has perfect mental health. We all
Right.
have something. And when you talk about trauma, I love that you incorporated that in as well, because there are different types of trauma. And we can all look at trauma differently. I think the majority would probably look at trauma as much bigger things in life, like, oh, I got into this devastating car accident, or my house burned, or something like that. And that's what they see trauma as. Where trauma could be even, a kid in 4th grade was bullying you,
Right.
and that child kept going. And you really perceive that as a difficult point in your life. And believe it or not, although that may have happened in 4th grade, it could affect us into our 50s, 60s, even 70s. We can probably remember that child's name, how we felt at that time, and we can relate a lot of our same feelings that we have today back to a time such as that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's a really powerful thing just to know. Because if we are feeling under pressure and we don't understand exactly why we're having those feelings, we can probably relate those same feelings that we're feeling internally as well as mentally back to previous times in our lives when we went through something similar that we may not even relate that to.
Right. Yeah. It's those subconscious beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's definitely something that we can't consciously pinpoint unless we're guided by someone or get some insight. I mean, that's kind of how I had to deal with some beliefs that were not serving me. I mean, I had support from a mental health counselor, and I mean, it's pretty amazing how much they can run your life if you don't really know that they're there, especially. So yeah, no, I love that. It's really powerful. So tell us about kind of what got you into this and what exactly made you decide to focus on helping women professionals.
Well, I got into counseling like many counselors probably do. Is there something in your background that leads you to want to help others to maybe not go through the same thing, or to be able to relate to others that are going through similar situations? That's why I got into counseling. And how I started working with women was really organic. I had mostly worked with populations of children and teens, and I enjoyed that tremendously. And then when I started my own practice, I was more of a general practitioner. So I was open, and I found that what was coming to me were professional women. And so I started working a lot more with professional women and just took off. I saw that I was reaching that population very well and seeing great success in it. So that has now become my focus, is working with women that are either professionals or working towards being a professional, or sometimes, you know what, they're a professional mom. And believe it or not, your executives have some of the same struggles as your professional moms. So it's a little bit of a broad range, but we share very similar situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I'm sure we'll dive into this a little bit, but it's that, setting ourselves to this unrealistic standard, I think is so common and something that I've struggled with. I call myself like a recovering perfectionist. And I know so many women and men struggle with that. So it's just like understanding that, we can't be perfect and don't need to be perfect. And yeah, so I love that you help women with that in particular, and just, and being their best selves. So, so through your experience kind of seeing clients over the years, what have you really noticed the biggest struggles have been for professional women, and especially as it relates to their mental health?
I would say there's a couple things. Probably number one at that list, or on that list, would be anxiety. I think several women suffer from anxiety. Actually, several individuals, male, female, we all suffer from some form of anxiety. And the way it manifests within ourselves, inwardly and outwardly, can be very different. So anxiety can control us. I mean, it's a terrible controller. It can control us. It comes in. It can change the way that we view things. It can change the way that we do things. It can change our feelings towards things. So I would say number one would be anxiety. And when we talk about perfection and trying to be that perfect person and perfect employee or perfect executive, when we talk about perfectionism, that's another form of anxiety, right? Trying to control. We're trying to control things so that way things are not, they're not going the way that we want them to go. We try to keep everything within that lane. And what happens then, if something starts to veer off that lane, we start to become anxious. So the easiest way to prevent that from happening is to control. So this is another form of anxiety, the way it comes out, the way that we manifest it. And when we talk about being perfect and perfectionism, you know, whose version of perfect are we looking at? Are we looking at somebody else's? Or are we looking at our own? And many times, almost 100% of the time, it's either our own or it's our parents' own. So their anxiety comes in because we're not living up to either our standards or their standards. Okay. So I would say number one thing I see is anxiety. And then there's a couple little offshoots of anxiety, codependency, work with codependency. Of course, depression loves to make its way in there. So top three, I would say anxiety, codependency, and depression.
Yeah. And I love what you said about control in particular. You know, that's something that I haven't really thought about, like when I think about why sometimes, like if I'm not taking care of my mental health, I move towards perfection. And it could be like, you know, I'm feeling stressed out and I need to control the situation. And that is kind of settling and comforting. So yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. So what do you feel like the biggest myths are about professional women?
To me, probably number one would be that we can do everything. We can do everything. You know, there was a commercial a long time ago, probably late 70s, early 80s, where it was like, I think it was Angele, this perfume, right? Where you can bring home the bacon, you can fry it up in a pan, never let you forget you're a man kind of thing. And I think that women were brought up to believe that we can do everything. We should be a provider. We should be a worker. We should, you know, be a mom. We should be able to take care of the neighbors if we have to. We should. And the key word there is should. When we look at that word should, that's somebody else's view. That may not be our view. But going back to trying to control, if we're told that we should be doing these things, well, then we should be doing these things. And we find that we fail when we can't do all those things, when we can't work full time and come home and clean our house from top to bottom and make dinner and make sure the kids have their homework done. Or now, you know, with the pandemic, make sure that we're homeschooling. We can't do everything. So what has to give? You know what gives? 9 times out of 10, we give. Our mental health will give. So I would say that's probably the number one myth, is that we can do everything. We can't do everything. We can try, but again, something has to give. So, you know, what will that be?
Yeah, no, it's so true. I feel like, you know, our health typically is the first thing. And of course, there's some differences generationally. I mean, I can notice the younger generation is seeming to prioritize their own health, but a little bit older generation is definitely, I mean, putting themselves first between everything. And yeah, like being the best mom, being the best employee. I mean, yeah, literally being superwoman. I mean, it's just completely unrealistic, and it totally wears women down, and it causes health problems down the road. So yeah, I totally agree with you. So as far as kind of prioritizing mental health, I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but why do you feel like that is so important, especially right now?
Especially right now. Wow. Yeah, especially right now because women, we are expected to do a lot of these things. And I am seeing a barrage of teachers right now, healthcare workers. I'm
Yep.
seeing moms in general, whether they're teachers or not, people are having a really difficult time right now. So much pressure is being added onto their plate. So if you had just a really hectic job and a really hectic home life, well, surprise, now you have even more added to that. And we're not even looking at the social component where you can't get out, or you can't go have lunch with your friends in the way that you used to. We're not even looking at that. We're just looking at the pressures and demands that are being made on you from your position at work, from your position at home. Those things have increased tenfold, and no one was prepared for that. So especially right now, it's essential to take care of yourself first. My daughter's a flight attendant, and I'm sure anyone that's flown knows, put your oxygen mask on first before your companion you're traveling with. Well, there is a reason for that. And what they don't tell you, and so I had to ask her, okay, so I had to ask her, I'm like, why do you have to do that? Well, what they don't tell you is you only have between minutes to seconds before you pass out. You become hypoxic. You're not going to breathe. That means this other person, they're doomed. So same thing in our lives. And I know this has become kind of a cliche saying to put your oxygen mask on first, but you have to do that right now, especially right now. You have to take care of you, because what happens if you're not well taken care of? Well, your work suffers, and then your work suffers, you're not in the best of moods. So you're not in the best of moods. You have this added pressure at work. What happens at home? All of a sudden, you can't be the best mom at home, or you can't be the best partner at home, or you can't even be the best dog parent at home, because you're not taking care of you. And you can take care of you in little spurts, so that's something that we definitely can talk about as well. But right now, essential to take care of you for your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being. It's important to remember they're all connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember now we do have that shared family member career. My mom's a flight attendant for American as well. And I mean, regarding just taking care of yourself too, that can be a lot for some women to swallow. Like, what do you mean I have to prioritize myself? Like, no, my kids are the priority, or my work is number one, or else everything else will crumble. And so just kind of understanding that, you do have to put yourself first to take care of everything else. It can be a bit to get there. And I'm sure you've seen that in practice with women just kind of being able to take that.
A lot. We refuse to hang up our superhero capes, Well, what would happen if I took 10 minutes out during my day, to take care of me? And again, that goes back to that whole, I have to control the situation. Because if I take 10 minutes out, I'm no longer in control. For those 10 minutes, anything could happen. Anything could fall apart. If I just stay on this for those 10 minutes, then everything's good. I'll rest when, I'm off work, or I'll rest when the kids are in bed, or. And I see that quite a bit in practice. We are so conditioned to put ourselves last that we can't imagine what it would look like to take that 10 minutes out for ourselves.
Sorry, everyone, we cut out for a minute. Yeah, no, I think I heard most of that. Basically, like cutting out the 10 minutes for ourselves, making sure we, or more or less, just something to give us some time to breathe and time to focus on self-care. And actually, I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, because I know we talked about this a little bit, and I know you really focus. What are some strategies that you typically recommend to kind of help women, just take care of themselves?
Okay, I am huge on self-care. I really believe in self-care. And I think there's a difference between self-care and what I call spa care. So many times we think, oh, I'm going to go have my hair done. I'm going to have self-care time. I'm going to have my nails done, hashtag self-care, look at me. And that's great. That's great, right? For those 10 minutes, an hour, or maybe a day when your hair is like looking on point. And that's great. Except what happens 2 weeks from now when, the house is falling apart and you're feeling overwhelmed at work and your hair is probably the last thing on your mind. So it's not self-care 2 weeks from now when everything's like, but there are strategies that you can incorporate every day. So that way, when this train wreck of a day happens, you're prepared. Okay. Mm-hmm. One of those things that I love is yoga. I think yoga is great. There are some fantastic apps out there that you can do a 10-minute set. 10 minutes. You can find 10 minutes. I mean, if you're at work, tell your employer, hey, I got to run to the restroom, and just stretch. Just stretch. Take some of that stress out of your body physically by stretching. Another thing that you can do, and I'm not saying you're going to be doing yoga in the bathroom. Okay, so no, probably not that. But, just stretching. There's some great stretching that you can do. They're going for walks. Never underestimate the power of a walk. And when you are walking, it's not taking your phone with you to be in a meeting. It's not taking your phone with you to listen to kids. It's none of that. What your walk should look like is there are some great walking meditations that you can take with you. You can just be present outside in nature, looking at the trees, appreciating the weather, just being mindful. That's really what mindfulness is about, is being in the moment, not worrying about tomorrow, not worrying about 5 minutes ahead of you, just being in the moment. That's a great way for self-care. Journaling. Some people journal, some people don't journal. Journaling is fantastic for getting everything out. It's just like verbal vomit. Let me just throw this all down on a piece of paper. And it gives your mind an opportunity not only to process, but kind of let some things go. When we can write that out, we can let it go. So that's a wonderful form of self-care. Writing letters, not to send, but to people that you may be upset with, to people that you wish you would have said this to. It's, again, giving your mind an opportunity to let some of these things go. This is just a few ways that you can practice self-care. And I'm not saying, don't go get your pedicures. So don't, nobody get riled up about that. Go get your pedicures. Those are fantastic. And I know sometimes when I have pedicures and I look down at my toes after a rough day, I'm like, at least something on me is put together. That's great. Yeah. So it's a good feeling, but it's not what's helping you during those rough times. It's not. So really, self-care, separate self-care from spa care and work on you. I don't know if we have time, but a big aspect of self-care that I don't think is spoken about enough, and you'll probably be able to relate to this, Christina, quite a bit, is taking care of your physical health. Mm-hmm. Going to those doctor appointments. Yeah, I don't love them. I will tell you that I had to go for a mammogram because I am at a higher risk for breast cancer. And I could put that off forever. And any ladies out there that have had one, you probably know where I'm going. I could put that off forever. But part of self-care is making sure that I'm healthy and that I can do my job and that I can take care of my household and things I need to do. So really, physical health goes along with self-care. Got to do it. If you've been putting off going to get a physical, got to do it. It's easy to put off, but it's an essential part of self-care. It really is.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love so much of everything you said there and all those strategies. Those are all things that I recommend too. And I also love your kind of distinguishing spa care versus self-care, because it's so true. I hear it a lot in my practice where women are like, oh yeah, well, I go and get a massage once a month. Awesome. That's amazing. Or I go and get my nails done, once a month. And that's all great. But what are you doing on a daily basis to help turn off that stress response and help your body heal and regroup and recuperate, right? It's like, it's the daily practice. And again, like Wendy was saying, like it doesn't have to be that long. It doesn't even need to be 10 minutes. It could be 2, it could be 5, just anything to kind of give yourself a little bit of time to relax is so important, because then it has such a greater effect, right? Like imagine if you did something every single day, you're going to be a lot better at it, or it's going to have more of a compounded effect than if you just did it once a month. So, and again, it's like those things are awesome, the massages and the pedicures and hair done and like all that stuff is super fun and enjoyable, but is it really making a huge difference every single day, which is what we need. I love so you were talking about mindfulness too. I listened to an interesting podcast within the last couple of days that was kind of just going over what mindfulness means. And it's not necessarily, clearing your mind and not thinking about anything, but also, I mean, as you're practicing mindfulness, that could also be just acknowledging thoughts that come into your head because it's always going to happen, right? Like we can never just turn our brain off. So it's just the practice of noticing and not judging and just being with those thoughts and not feeling attached to them. So I love all those strategies. I have a couple more questions for you. So what do you feel like the biggest mistakes people make are with their mental health?
There's probably a couple. I would say number one on that list would be not acknowledging it, not acknowledging when things are probably getting a little rough. For me, I believe in mental health as it is a daily practice. It's something that you have to check in with on the daily. And I love what you said earlier, that the younger generation, they really do believe in mental health and the benefits of mental health, probably more than previous generations. And I have several younger clients that have told me, my mom made it okay for me to be able to see someone. And now I think it's really important and something that I have to do. And I think it's important also to distinguish that working through mental health or acknowledging, just mental health. I'm not talking about any kind of disorder. I'm just saying mental health in general. It's important to realize that you can go and you can talk to a counselor, even if you don't believe that, okay, I don't really think I have anxiety, or I really don't feel depressed, but it's okay to talk to somebody, because believe it or not, once you get into a session, you probably have a lot more things to talk about than what you thought. And you're saving yourself and you're saving your friends, because your friends, they love you. This is true. But do they want to hear all your problems from 1 to 99? Probably not, but your counselor will help you work through a lot of those problems from an unbiased approach. And they are able to offer wonderful suggestions on how to work with things like we're talking about, like mindfulness. There's techniques that I use in session to help people learn about mindfulness and to understand, where do you start? And when you talk about anxiety, if you're seeing someone for anxiety, your counselor will probably be able to help you with techniques on how to work with your anxiety, especially in the situations that you might be experiencing it. And another thing that's great for counseling is being able to talk about things that you can't talk to anybody else about. A subject that's come up quite a bit for me during this, I mean, not me personally, but, with people that I see during the pandemic, is I don't have to go and hang out with my parents now every weekend. And this is something they could normally never come out and admit to. And they're like, I'm actually enjoying this. So it's little things like that you may not be able to tell anybody else, but be able to verbalize that to someone feels good. It kind of takes it off your plate, and knowing that there's acceptance in that is important. So I would say acknowledging mental health needs, probably number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love all of that because I think a lot of women are, yes, definitely under the impression like I have to have a problem to see a counselor, or I have to have a problem to get support in this area, when we can really think of it like our health, right? We're not going to just start doing something when well, some people do, unfortunately, but how we really prevent things from happening is starting to make healthy changes, like with your diet and lifestyle, to prevent the disease or illness from happening in the long term, right? So it's the same kind of, tool of preventative maintenance with your mental health. And yeah, like you said, I mean, typically things come up. And I know it's common for people to kind of bury stuff and, also have, like we talked about earlier, those kind of subconscious beliefs that can be messing with us in other ways that we're not aware of until we have a professional to kind of help pull them out and dig deep to discover them. So yeah, I love all of that. And yeah, just kind of having, like what you said, awareness is really so important. So yeah, no, I love that so much. So I mean, we've kind of been touching on this the whole time, but what do you feel like can really be done to support our mental health the best that we possibly can?
I think there are several things that you can do. Of course, I think number one would be reaching out to a mental health professional and just establishing care with somebody. It doesn't mean that you have to go every week. Sometimes you just check in once a month. And I think that's a great place to start. If you don't feel that you want to see a mental health specialist or you're not there yet, there are other things you can do. There are some fantastic apps. I love apps. There's one of my favorite apps is called 3 Good Things. And it is, I want to say it's through Duke University or something like that. There is research behind this app. It's a fantastic app. It's very basic and simplistic. So there's no bells and whistles to it at all. It's called 3 Good Things. And every day you just look for 3 good things that have happened in your day. And what that is doing is it's trying to shift your mind from looking at all the negatives, because as people, humans, we can find a negative in almost anything. So it's shifting that mind from looking for the negatives to start looking for the positives in our day. And eventually what happens is you do have a mind shift and you start actively looking for positive things in your day, which starts to give you a more positive outlook in your day, but in your life. Okay, that's an app that I use every single day. I've been using it for, a little over a year now, and I love it. I recommend that to everybody that I work with. So 3 good things. Journaling, I think journaling's another way that you can get a lot out. You're able just to write things down that have happened in your day, have happened in your week, things that you're frustrated by. People sometimes say, well, I don't know what to journal about. It's okay. Get online and just look for journal prompts, and you will come up with hundreds of journal prompts. Like you'll be writing for the next 5 years and never have to repeat. So journaling, fantastic. I love journaling. Other things that you can do, learn a little bit more about meditation. There's some great apps again, like Insight Timer. It's free. I think there's 50,000 different meditations on there. So that's something that you can look at just to start with meditation practice. Something I do also tell everybody that I work with, that if we're discussing meditation, you don't need to sit there and start with a 20-minute meditation. That's probably very unrealistic for somebody that's starting out.
Right.
If you right, no one can sit there for that long if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
If you can do 1 minute, and just practice that 1 minute, just commit. It's that routine of committing to that 1 minute a day, right? We're starting to build up our meditation practice. So just commit 1 minute a day. And then build up from there. 2 minutes next week, 3 minutes the next week. Okay, find a minute meditation that you relate to. There are many. Find one that you can relate to. There are religious ones, non-religious ones, some for nature, some for walking, some for just sitting, some for before going to bed. You'll find one that fits you. Okay, looking at meditation, I think, is very powerful. And again, that goes with our hashtag self-care, right? And it's not a new hairstyle. So I really, those are probably my top that I really go to when it comes to mental health. And as you work with somebody, a counselor, you will come up with all kinds of different things to look at. So those are my top.
I love that. Yeah, I feel, I mean, gratitude is so powerful, and it's something that's really gotten really popular in the last several years, just being, a bunch of apps and meditations, and I love it because, it changes. I mean, this might sound funny to some people, but it really changes your kind of vibration, like being in a state of gratitude versus a state of even like a to-do list or what do I have to do today? Or, what do I have to worry about today? Just taking a minute to be really grateful is so powerful and can totally shift your mindset and day. I did, pop those 2 apps in the chat. So thanks for telling us about those. I hadn't heard from about either of those, especially the Insight Timer. I'm always looking for new meditation apps.
Fantastic.
And for people that are just getting started in meditation, doing like a guided meditation or something really short and sweet, like a minute to a couple minutes long, 5 minutes long, can be really helpful in kind of keeping you on track too, just as you're starting out. So those are really powerful. I love those tools. So, so kind of, tell the audience how they can find you.
Oh, sure. You can find me at my website, which is Wendy, and then Boring-Bray, BORING, like no fun, and then Bray, BRAY.com. That is my website. You can definitely reach me there, and on there you'll see my phone number, you'll see my email, so you can always reach me any way, form through there. And also I'm starting a group practice, and my group practice will be taking off here in the next week, and that's called Diversified Behavioral Health. So we have a wonderful selection of providers that if somebody wanted to meet with someone, and I'm not available, these providers are fantastic and can offer you everything that we've spoken about today as well.
I love that. So do you just see clients in California currently? Are you able to see clients outside of California?
Most of my client base is in California, but I can also see clients in Missouri as well. So I'm licensed in both states, and I can see clients from Florida as well, because I am a registered telehealth provider in Florida. So just heads up, guys, in Missouri and Florida, it's all telehealth. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Do I remember correctly, did you move from Missouri?
I did. I was born in California and lived here most of my life, and then I moved to Missouri, and that is where my heart lies, is in Missouri. So, and now I'm back in California and keeping busy here.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for your time. This was amazing to kind of hear all these tools that you support your clients with, and just kind of diving into how to support women professionals and executives. So I love talking to you. I'm sure all of our viewers loved it as well. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you for having me. This is fantastic. And anytime that I can help women to help themselves, I'm there. It's something I'm passionate about, something I really, really believe in. I think that we as women, we need that permission to take care of ourselves. And I want everyone to know it's okay to take care of you. And on your gratitude, if the only thing you can come up with to be grateful for that day was to take a shower in peace and quiet by yourself, put that down. Put that down. Be thankful for it. So I'm really happy to have been invited to be here today. And I want to thank you so much, Christina. It was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, take care. Good luck down there in California, and enjoy the nice weather down there.
It's getting chillier. It's getting chillier. I know my daughter's going back to Seattle today, and she's like, it's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's been cold. It's been really beautiful and sunny, but we hit our first frost this weekend, and we were not prepared in our house because our house has a ton of windows, and we were absolutely freezing. But I'll take the sun and the cold any day. So
yeah, sounds great. So,
yeah, well, take care, Wendy. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.